I'm going to flip the microphone a bit here and treat this as a reaction-driven, analysis-first piece rather than a straight news recap. My aim is to pull out the core ideas, add heavy interpretation, and give you a creator's eye view of what happened, why it matters, and what it signals beyond the surface details. Let's dive in. What happened, in plain terms, and why it matters to you? A suspect attacked Temple Israel in West Bloomfield, Michigan, by ramming a vehicle into the building during an active shooter response. A security team member was injured, others were safe, and the suspect died on scene. The FBI and multiple agencies are on the case, and officials urged the area to shelter in place while they secured the building and surrounding facilities. My take: this isn't just a single incident. It's a pressure test on how communities, police, and private security coordinate under duress. It also forces us to confront two uncomfortable questions at once. How do we protect religious institutions without turning them into fortress zones? And what does this say about the current climate around anti-Semitism and violence? Idea 1. What does active shooter response look like in real time, and what can we learn from it? First, the immediate response involved a combination of synagogue security personnel and law enforcement from multiple agencies. The fact that one security responder was injured but others prevented greater harm suggests both the perils of rapid, close-quarters confrontation and the crucial role trained security plays in stopping something before it escalates. What makes this really interesting is how different groups measured the threat and coordinated. Private security acted as a first line, police and FBI provided backup and containment, and the community was told to shelter. In my opinion, this layered approach showcases a practical model for risk management in places that host high-visibility, high-emotion events. It's about speed, training, and jurisdictional cooperation, not just force. A detail I find fascinating is the balance between enabling safety and maintaining accessibility. If you over-securitize a space, you risk making people feel unwelcome or surveilled. If you under-securitize, you risk tragedy. This incident underscores the ongoing negotiation between openness and protection that faith communities live with daily. What this implies is that the threat landscape isn't static. Active shooter responses now depend on trained professionals on site plus rapid integration with public safety assets. That's a trend we should watch at schools, houses of worship, events, and even private businesses. People often misunderstand this as a simple black and white choice: more security equals less freedom. But the real insight is about design, drills, and culture. Security can be a normal part of the environment if done with transparency, community involvement, and clear communication. Idea 2. The role of religious institutions in a volatile public safety environment. Temple Israel is described as the largest Reform synagogue in the United States. It's not just a place for worship, it's a community hub. When an attack targets such spaces, the ripple effects aren't only physical damage, they're psychological and social, changing how people behave in daily life, how schools plan field trips, and how communities talk about safety. From my perspective, the most important takeaway is not the immediate tactical response but the longer arc. How do communities rebuild trust and continuity after a scare? The way schools and community centers implement lockout protocols and how state and local authorities adjust patrols speaks to a broader pattern of civic resilience. It also reveals where there are gaps, like mental health support, preventive communication, and inclusive security planning, that communities must address going forward. One thing that immediately stands out is the explicit emphasis on not bringing more harm to the area. Authorities asked people to stay away to allow responders to do their job. That shows a shift from reactive to deliberately managed disruption, an important nuance in crisis communication and public safety protocol. What this really suggests is a broader trend: institutions are increasingly collaborating across sectors, police, federal agencies, interfaith groups, school districts, to create safer community ecosystems. The question is whether this model scales and remains humane under pressure. Idea 3. The political and social backdrop: anti-Semitism, hate, and policy responses. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Attorney General Dana Nessel issued statements, framing anti-Semitism as unacceptable and urging unity. The public messaging here matters. It signals a political stance while also attempting to calm a frightened community. In my opinion, what makes this moment tricky is balancing condemnation with concrete action. Strong rhetoric is necessary, but without measurable commitments, resources for security upgrades, anti-violence education, and robust reporting mechanisms, the impact can feel symbolic rather than systemic. What many people don't realize is that criminal acts tied to hate often reveal underlying patterns, misinformation, polarized discourse, and social fragmentation. The deeper implication is that safety isn't only about one incident, it's about countering hate in everyday discourse, school curricula, and community programming. If you take a step back and think about it, the incident becomes a data point in a larger trend. Between large-scale security investments and ongoing civil rights advocacy, communities are trying to protect vulnerable spaces while preserving openness. The equilibrium is fragile and requires sustained effort. Idea 4. The information flow, transparency, updates, and how we digest breaking news. The report emphasizes real-time updates, shelter in place, the status of injuries, and the evolving presence of federal agents. Readers and viewers are kept in the loop, but there's a balance between speed and accuracy as details shift. From my view, this case demonstrates why you should be cautious about early narratives. Initial reports can evolve as more facts surface, which is why credible outlets rely on official confirmations and frequent revisions. This matters to you because it affects how you interpret safety and risk in your own community. A bigger implication is about media literacy in crisis times. Viewers often want clear villains and simple timelines, but real events are messy and layered. The best analysis acknowledges that complexity and communicates it without sensationalism. Deeper insight, imagining the next steps and the culture we're shaping. This incident could push more synagogues and other faith centers to invest in security training, on-site responders, and clearer incident response playbooks. It might also accelerate collaboration with local police, mosques, churches, and community organizations to share best practices. A crucial question: how do we sustain a safety-first mindset without normalizing fear? The answer likely lies in visible, community-led safety programs that include education, youth outreach, and opportunities for dialogue with law enforcement so trust isn't eroded over time. Another broader pattern: the crisis response isn't happening in a vacuum. It's intertwined with national conversations about hate crimes, white-hot political rhetoric, and the role of media in shaping perception. What this signals is a demand for responsible leadership, accurate information, and a focus on healing and prevention alongside protection. Closing thought: what we should carry forward. What this really comes down to is two things we should all consider: preparedness and empathy. Preparedness isn't about turning spaces into bunkers, it's about building resilient processes with trained people and trusted partnerships. Empathy means recognizing the fear in the community while offering concrete steps to safety and inclusion. My takeaway is this: if we want safer communities, we need to pair practical security measures with ongoing dialogue and anti-hate initiatives. Otherwise, the next alert could feel like a foregone conclusion rather than an exception. If you're watching this and you're part of a faith or community group, ask yourself, what would our security playbook look like if we had to act within minutes? How would we balance openness with protection? Start the conversation, plan with your local authorities, and keep your community's humanity at the center. Thanks for sticking with me through this breakdown. If you found value here, drop a comment with your thoughts on how communities can improve safety without sacrificing openness. Do you think security protocols should be more standardized across faith institutions, or tailored to local needs? And as always, consider subscribing for more creator-style breakdowns where we not only report what happened but probe why it matters and what it means for the world we're building together.